Hi, my friend Sam here with a little more homebrew science. Today, I want to talk more about the Slishman Pressure Wrap, or I should say, study it more. I want to do an experiment that evaluates the peak pressures that I can generate with it. So I set up this experiment. I've got 4 bags of water here, different colors. I'm going to wrap it around the red and squeeze and see how high I can force that fluid up. All right. This is a 5-meter column here. So I'm going to check peak pressures here. And what I'm going to do is wrap it around 1, wrap it around 2, 3, and 4, and we'll see how much circumference impacts the peak pressures that I can get with the Slishman Pressure Wrap. I'm going to do these same tests with some of the CoTCCC favorite tourniquets too. I have a SAM XT here, RMT, Ratcheting Medical Tourniquet, the CAT, and the soft T. I just happen to have these. I don't have all of the CoTCCC favorites, but you know, today it's not about showing that the pressure wrap is better or worse than others. I just want to see that the pressures are comparable with the favorite tourniquets out there. And I will also try the SWAT T as well. And then we'll see how much of a difference the circumference makes too. You know, as circumference goes up, the likelihood for success goes down for tourniquets. So I just want to sort of prove that to myself. And we'll see what the numbers show. So that's all. All right, so as a first test here, what I want to do is just put a blood pressure cuff on one of these bags and crank it up. And we'll just see what happens. I don't think it's going to be exactly millimeters of mercury with centimeters of water because because there's stretch in these bags. But let's just see if we're even close. I'm going to go up to, well, let's go to 300. Pressure is climbing, going up, 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 up. And here we are, we're at 300. Let's see what that, holy cow. So the top pressure there is, that's not bad, 355. 355, and that's 300. It's not bad. All right, so that sort of calibrates our system here. All right, so let's do the SAM XT first and get a baseline for pressures. We're gonna do 1 bag, 2, 3, and 4. See if that's consistent. Yeah. All right, so starting pressure is 76 and 3. 3 is a lot. That's way up there again. Going back up. All right, right now the pressure is 390. 390. All right, now we're going to do 2 bags. And for all of these, I'm going to wrap around the post. 2 bags, here we go. See what our cinch pressure is. Okay, there it is. So the green one and the red one, these 2 columns are very close to each other. Within a centimeter right now. So 64 will be our cinch pressure for 2 bags. And now what I'm going to do is crank this. I'll give it 3 turns. 1, 2, and 3. All right, now let's see what that pressure went up to here. It's 271 and 285. 271 is the green, 285 is the red. Let's get our cinch pressure for 3 bags. Okay, cinch for green, blue, and red. Let's do it. 42 and 53. And then now let's give it some cranks. So 3 cranks. 1, 2, and 3. Green's at 170, red is at 190. All right, here we are, 4 bags. Let's do 4 bags. All right, pull and click. So opening cinch for 4 bags is 62. And let's give it some turns here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. How high up does that go? Okay, the green is right now at 210, and the red is at 205. So now I'm going to do the CAT. All right, so for the first one, I want to get this pressure up to 48 for starters. 48. All right, that's pretty good. 78, now let's start turning. All right, I'm just going to turn until, so 1, 2, and 3. All right. 3 cranks, 330, 320, 325 actually. 325 is the red. That was 3 cranks. Can I do 4? No, I'm going to break something. So 3 cranks is it. Let's do another tourniquet here. We're going to do this is the soft T here. So I couldn't get it to lock. At this point here, this is sliding out. Yeah, I can't. I don't know if you can see that there, but when I pull, I just can't get. It's sliding backwards. But I can't with the soft T get that first cinch because it's so small that it's coming undone. So I get 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. 3. I wouldn't do any more than that on a patient. So, and we're way up there. 240. Next step is the ratcheting medical tourniquet. We're learning a little bit here about how to deal with the entrapped limb too. That's another topic. So, sometimes your leg or your arm is flopping in the breeze. Sometimes it's stuck underneath something else, and then what do? It's hard to cinch the RMT on a small limb, but so 365. The other thing is with the RMT, you just saw what I don't like about the RMT. When it's really tight and you release it, it'll just rip your finger right off. It's pretty hard cinching, that first one. However, it'll get you pressure. And you can see what it's doing to green here. It's killing it. Green is way up in the air at 345, and red is at 285. All right, I gotta watch out here. All right, so this is, you can get high pressures, but you have to cut it off. All right, again, I can't generate a whole lot of pressure with that first cinch here. It's at 20. 305, 285. Is this going to release or not? What do you think? I'm going to do the SWAT T next. And this is a hard angle here, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. I think what I have to do is just make an initial wrap like that. I just find it's very hard to, all right, I'm just going to do it like this. Oh, how do we get here? That's a pretty good one for small. 270. 270. SWAT T gets a 270 for a single bag. How about 2 bags? What's going to happen here? All right. 220. 3 bags. Actually, these are more comparable. 150, 151, and 159. Let's get to the pressure wrap here. So there's another useful thing to see in this video here. If you have an entrapped limb, it's hard to do this kind of thing, but there is a nice way to deal with it. Well, you just watch. Go through here. Pass that through. This just gets cranked down. So now I still have a cinch on an entrapped limb. See that? All right, my opening cinch on a red one, that's at 110. That is high. 400. 410 actually, 410. Let's see what a difference white makes. It's interesting. So that's only 310. 310. First cinch, first wraparound and lock is 120. The average is 125. All right, wide is 220, 220. 120, so average 135. Arrow gets me to 285. Green is 220, red is 230. Green is 190, red is 195. $158, $172. All right, so here are some observations and conclusions from all this. Number one, I found out that IV bags of saline are incredibly tough. I thought I was going to get soaked the whole time, but it never happened. I based this experiment a little bit around a 2019 tourniquet review where they have 180 to 500 millimeters of mercury as the target range. And if you convert to centimeters of water, that's 245 to 680 centimeters of water. So I went out and bought PVC and made a column that was 7 meters tall and then tied IV tubing to it and just tried to see how high I could squeeze the water up that tubing. And another thing I learned is 7 meters is really high. I couldn't get it past 5 meters for any of the tourniquets or the pressure wrap for that matter. So cut it down to 5 meters. That range itself, 180 to 500, the 180 number also is probably higher than needs to be. 180, there are people at that blood pressure, and when they're screaming in pain, they're certainly going to be at a higher blood pressure. But if you're bleeding out, that pressure won't last long. So to me, 160 to 400, 350, I think is more of an optimal target range for tourniquets. And that is what was consistent with what we had here today too. So, I'm going to go through each of the tourniquets and just say a couple more points about them. So, the SAM the SAM XT is made by SAM Medical. They made the SAM splint as well. And Sam and Sherry Scheinberg, wonderful people. They have helped me for years. They invented this in reaction to other windlass tourniquets that don't have some type of mechanism that tells you when to stop pulling the cinch or giving you a target. So one of the flaws of the CAT and other products like it is that if you don't pull hard enough, they might not work. You may, if it's loose and you start cranking, you may run out of travel. So in this case, I pulled till I hear the click. And by the way, those teeth hold it in place. So even if this comes off, it's still holding tight. So I get one crank and then another crank. And basically 2 cranks of this is good enough for my arm. 3 on my leg. I can't get to 4 on any part of my body. So that was helpful for me with the experiment too, because it gave me a target range. It was like, 4 clearly is excessive and 5 is impossible. So it helped me to know what a peak pressure should be. And this gives very discrete set points. The CAT tourniquet is similar, it's quite similar. I pull down here and you make this tight enough, lock that down. You have a little more wiggle with the windlets. So I get 1 and then 2 here. And then 3 on my leg, but this gives some idea about how many would be clinically correct. I mean, if I go to 4 or 5, I'll start to see deformation and it just clinically makes no sense. So this soft tee on face value looks similar in function to the CAT. But what I found is that with the 1 liter bag, it was very difficult to cinch tightly. So pull here, and this started to back off on something small, but otherwise it was the same functionality. Just crank. Anyway, I don't need to do this on my arm for all of these. But the bottom line and my conclusion from the data was probably better on larger limbs. Small limbs, maybe not as good. For the ratcheting medical tourniquet, the initial cinch for a small limb also wasn't great. And it just, you can see it's just, it doesn't crank down there, but that's made up for with the crank mechanism. The ratcheting medical tourniquet achieved the highest pressures, but there are some downsides. So you can see what's happening to my skin here. The webbing underneath is getting pushed into the skin. And with this, when I was pulling tight on the bags, I reached a point where it was extremely hard to release as well. This was not as hard just now. And then a few more words just about the SWAT T. I said in a previous video, I think it's elegant, simple, but the downside is that as you have a larger and larger limb, it's less effective because it's just not enough wrap. But I like that it's a consistent pressure all the way around. I like that it's elastic, and it certainly doesn't cause the same level of pinch. All right, so let's, I'll talk about the Slishman Pressure Wrap while reviewing the data here too. All right, so I converted everything from centimeters of water to millimeters of mercury just to using that initial conversion factor, 300 to 355, I think it was. The thing that jumps out immediately is as the circumference of the bags goes up, as the circumference goes up, the peak pressures go down. That was expected, but this makes it very clear. The SAM XT does well. The CAT maybe a little less well. And I think what happened with here with the SAM XT is that probably I could have done one more crank. But in any case, the soft T, as I said earlier, it was hard to get a high pressure with the first one because the cinch, it just backed off. The ratcheting medical tourniquet maintained high pressures even for the larger circumference, but with the downside being it was more difficult to release. The SWAT T was less and less effective as the size of the limb got bigger. But the reason that I did this was to see where the Slishman Pressure Wrap lands amongst these, and frankly, it did great. And additionally, what I didn't know going into this was, I've been saying for a while that as you add more and more turns on a small limb, the pressures can go very high. I didn't realize how high that might be. Will it go to the moon? But frankly, I am encouraged by these numbers because I pulled very hard on that single liter bag, and it didn't go to 7 meters up. It was, reasonable numbers here. And it did well for larger and larger circumference also. I also learned that the narrow gives higher pressures compared with the pressure wrap applied wide. And however, on a clinical level, I think that wide is still the way to go because it's less painful, and you'll get less tissue destruction too. All right, there you have it. I'll end this by saying this is not good science. This is bias-based medicine. This is not evidence-based medicine. I did this experiment for me, not as much for you. Well, actually, I want to inspire you to try to reproduce these numbers. Science should be reproducible, and probably if you did this, you'd come up with different numbers, in part because I only have my strength. I don't have your strength. So, somebody else might pull these harder. Actually, I say that, but for the SAM XT, probably those numbers will be comparable no matter who does it because it has very discrete set points. The opening cinch is a lock, and then there's the first turn and the second turn and the third turn. Those are pretty consistent numbers, regardless of your strength. I learned that I should not be as anxious about the Slishman Pressure Wrap applied to small limbs. Just don't be crazy, put it on until bleeding stops and then back it off when you feel like you're safe. I think this is neck and neck with the competing products, so I feel less anxiety about using T-word. And but please go out. Please try to reproduce some of the numbers. I'll end, as I often do, with some outtakes with my kids. This was a very enjoyable experiment with them. They learned a fair bit with me. And well, like and subscribe if you like. That's all. Be well and be safe. Bye. No getting hurt. That's right.
I did get hurt today 8 times.
All right. All right. All you got to do is stand up and be ready to receive the pressure gauge. This is a giant manometer. You guys know that word, manometer?
No.
It's a pressure gauge. But this is measuring centimeters of water.
How much pressure can a hand apply?
All right, let's see it. All right, squeeze hard, 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 hard. That's 190 centimeters of water. This is going up. What is this, New York City? I got sirens going off all over the place. Yes. Ready?
Don't keep focus of that siren.
Don't listen to that siren. That's right.
Oh. Whoa. Now that's a...
That was one turn.
Whoa. Okay. I need to go on the... I need to climb the ladder. Wait, you're doing one bag for one journey?
We're doing one bag, and then we're going to do 2 bags and 3 bags.
I just found a flaw with it. See how this happens? It pinches your skin. Do you guys see? It's just... I didn't want this is under aerial thing.
All right, I'm going to say that's the end of the line there. So you know, what did we learn here?
That windlasses
No, what we learned
and
is that
kids don't react together good.
Okay.
You told me you need it.
I don't need that. Here.
That's the kid weight that you put stuff on.
All right, now do this. Do we have any pulses? Go like that. Put your hand up. Any pulses there? I think there's no flow in this pediatric limb right here.
Ow! 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 Ow!
No flow.
Ow!
All right.
This hurts.
All right, come on. We're gonna break another cat knockoff.
I still barely have any pulls.
Buddy, are we doing this or not? Come here.
I barely have any pulls.
All right, I hope we get a pulse back at some. Let's see how this goes.
Say bye-bye, cat knockoff.
Hey, this is a piece of PVC. Be nice to it here.
We're trying to break it, you said.
How many turns can this take before something breaks?
I hope it doesn't splatter.
Pressure's going up. See it bending already. See it's starting to
Okay, it's going to explode.
deform. The pressure up there is pretty high though. We got pressures in the 300s. It's actually pretty good.
Probably
right
going to fall on us.
You know what? Maybe I'd take what I said back about the cat knockoffs. Oh, there it is. So pressure is pretty good, high in the 290, 300 range, but
I'd say it's great for kids if you want to make tight stuff.
bending pretty badly though.
Bending very badly.
That's
Okay.
it. That broke.
That's it. Take that!
So
We want something.
I think the webbing was pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean...
You know, honestly, I think this performs equivalent to the cat, other than that. This is pretty solid.
You're actually...
But we're going to test it.
Yeah, we're going to see if I can break it.
Okay, we can try. I don't think you're going to break it. Let's see how high we can get the pressure up. That's another issue with a tiny limb is hard angle.
You're going to die.
Relax. All right. You killed. This guy is definitely losing a limb. All right, now get that in there.
No.
All right, done. I can barely get this out, Max.
I I'm sorry.
All right, I gotta have to dig it out this way.
See, literally have to tuck it in. If you don't tuck it in, this stuff happens. Yeah, so I barely can see. That's right.
Right now.
Dad?
All right, tighten that up.
How do you
Okay,
even?
now go ahead. Now go ahead and start
How do
pumping.
you even stick to this thing?
Pump it up.
Ah,
There we
I
go.
think this is how you do it.
There it goes. Okay.
You know, there's a tourniquet that's not a tourniquet.
What?
There's a tourniquet that's not a tourniquet.
Oh, which one's that?
A brick.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you for that.
Because it stops bleeding if you put it on your arm or leg.